How's it going, everybody? I am John. I am your host of Forgotten Working Class Podcast. And today we are answering questions on this and a couple other social media platforms we're doing live. And yeah, so definitely check us out. Make sure you tune in to Forgotten Working Class Podcast because we have had amazing guests, great stories. So don't miss out. So let's jump into it. Let's see what we got for questions and answers here. I'm trying to figure out on two different things because they
You
are
can move.
different.
You can move this forward. This does not have to be
Easy there.
so far back.
That's good.
You just did a video talking about your skin grafts.
That's
so,
right.
I mean, you can show the people your head right now and talk about what happened to you as they're coming in.
Yep, I did do a video about my skin grafts. I've had a lot of questions on that. You know, what are skin grafts and how they work, and it's crazy. Like skin grafts are definitely wild. How they take them off your body and then they put them through a machine that cuts them up and easier to stretch over your areas that were burned or whatever. And it's nuts how the human body works. I mean, it truly is. It's absolutely insane. But today we're here answering some questions. I know I've had a lot of questions about my scars and what I've been through. So that's what we're doing today. Just going to answer some questions. Hope everybody had a good, safe weekend. Our weekend was pretty good. Did a little fishing, hung out with the kids. We seen fireworks on 4th of July. It was a good fireworks show. Kids liked it. Got to play some sparklers, but nobody was hurt, and that was good. Which one? Oh, oh no. There we go. That better? All right. Once again, we're on two different platforms on live. It is weird because not every platform that you go on live is the same. So I am trying to work both of them at the same time.
It's Monday. JB just came out today.
That's right, guys. On our podcast, Forgotten Working Class, we did have JB on there. His episode aired today. Awesome, awesome dude. You guys definitely want to check him out. Am I the guy who had your mom helping to recover? No. No, so my wife is the one that helped me recover. Screw. It says story time. So I was a rock miner, and while on the job, I was working on a heavy piece of machinery that ran off of 4160 volts. And while working on it, I was electrocuted to the top of the head by 4,160 volts. It did enter my head here, and it came out the back of my neck. And as you can see right here, I can move it. That's because there is a hole in my skull now. That hole developed, I would say, about a year out of the hospital. You know, in the hospital, my skull was all good. And then out of nowhere, that it just absorbed itself. Justin, no, that wasn't me. I didn't have to learn how to talk again. I was able to talk once the trait came out. You know, it was a little weird at first, but I didn't have to relearn how to talk. It's all good. That's why we're doing this today. We're answering questions. Grady 17. I was electrocuted by 4,160 volts to the top of the head. Is 4,000 a lot? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you guys don't mind, share the live and we'll get more people in our live and we'll answer more questions. Was I a lineman? I was not a lineman. I was not an electrician. I actually hate electricity, and now I really hate electricity. But I was a rock miner, and the machine I was working on, it ran off of 4,160 volts. And while working on it, I was electrocuted by it. It hit me right in the head and came out the back of my neck. How it happened, I don't know. I don't know why, how. I woke up out of a coma in the hospital, and I remember nothing. The first thought in my head when I woke up was that I had to get up and get dressed because I was going to be late for work. And that's when my wife told me, "You've been out of work for about 2 weeks in a coma, so you're not going to work." Did it hurt? Like I just said, I don't remember anything. And thankfully, I don't remember being electrocuted. So I don't know how it felt. But I can tell you afterwards in the hospital, the pain, yeah, that was the worst pain I've ever been through in my life. I mean, I think some of the worst of it was ear pain, which, I notice I don't have my right ear anymore. I do have half of my left one, but the right one, I ended up telling them to take it off. It was burned so bad that they did try to save it and they would cut pieces off every surgery I'd go into. They'd also cut pieces off my ear. And about the fourth surgery came around, I told them, cut the ear off, be done with it because it was excruciating pain. Ear pain I didn't realize could be that bad. Screw, can I only hear out on one side? I get that question a lot. And no, I can hear out of both sides just fine. So the ear itself, is gone, but I don't know if you guys can see. I do have the hole right there. And the ear canal and eardrum was not damaged. So, I was able to keep my hearing and hear just fine out of both sides. I seen, did I have hair before? I did. It is all gone. It will not grow back. The only spot you can see is right there. That'll grow hair. That's it. Is that my heart? Yeah, that is my hard hat behind me. Yes. B Rose. Yeah, that's why I'm on social media is, to show awareness of what can happen in the blue collar industry. You know, we do have that in the back of our heads that you can get hurt at work. And then sometimes you get so comfortable, doing the same thing over and over that you don't really think it can happen or it's not in the back of your head as much anymore. And that's the problem is that you never know. I mean, freak accidents, stuff breaks, and you can get hurt. And that's what I'm trying to do is to explain safety, 100% always safety, because you can't be 100% safety going into work. You can be 99%, but there is that 1% chance that something could break that is not your fault, is not anybody's fault, and you can get hurt. So, and also, I want people to understand that just because other people look different with their scars, there is a lot of people that are ashamed of how they look because of the scarring, and they shouldn't be. You should be able to accept your scars and be proud of them because this is, these shows what you have been through, what you've battled, and what you've overcome. It's a sick tattoo. What was the most electrifying part of my job? I like that one. So, void, you said so lucky it didn't ground out. Um, it held me until it tripped the substation out. Electrical burns? Yes. Yep. I was not a lineman. Was it a shock to you when it happened? So when it happened, I don't remember anything. I that is completely erased out of my brain. Chaz, am I electric eel now? I mean, if I rub my feet fast enough on a rug, I can give you a shock, but that's about it. How did it happen? I don't know exactly how it happened or why it happened, but I was working on a big piece of machinery, and that machine ran off of 4160 volts, and I woke up and out of a coma in the hospital. So I don't know. Chloe D, hi. Kane, I was in a coma for 9 days, and that 9 days was plenty for me. I don't ever want to be in a coma again, and I don't wish it on anyone. Kim, I do not work with, which I was an electrician or lineman before. I was actually a rock miner, and no, I don't work with anything like that anymore. So what we do now is we have an apparel line and we have a podcast. Podcast is Forgotten Working Class. Make sure you guys tune in, check it out, subscribe. Can I get a whoa, yeah? How did I get electrocuted? So I was working on a piece of machinery that ran off of 4160 volts, and I don't know how or why. I don't remember. So that's as far as I can go on that answer. What was it like being in the coma? Terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. Um, it was a nightmare after a nightmare after a nightmare until the point that you realize that you are trapped in your own head. There was a point in my coma, and I mean, I can remember, I would say 90% of my coma still. Like it's burnt into my brain. And it was terrifying. But there was a point in my coma that you realize that you are dreaming. And my thought was that I'm in my bed, if I kick my wife, she'll wake me up. And my mind was telling my legs to move. If they were, I don't know, but I never woke up, and then it was to the point of realizing you're stuck in your own head and there's nothing you can do to get out. And that point was absolutely terrifying because you know that you're dreaming, but there's nothing you can do to wake up. And it was very strange. People say you can hear people. You can and you can't. Um, I wouldn't be able to hear exactly what they're saying, but I could hear their voice. And then, maybe in a couple nightmares and dreams I was having, those people would appear. So, yeah, I don't suggest any sort of coma for anybody. But then again, I have heard people, I've talked to people in the hospital that their coma was completely different, and they traveled the world and it was amazing and beautiful. And I've heard people tell me that their coma was pretty much just like mine, and it was terrifying. Jack, your question was, could I tell night and day in my coma? In the coma, I couldn't tell any sort of time or anything like that, so I don't know. Did it hurt getting hit with a shovel? Uh, I don't know. I didn't get hit with a shovel. I wasn't a lineman, no. I was actually a rock miner, and the machine I was working on at the time, it ran off of 4160 volts, and yeah, I was electrocuted by 4160 volts. Hit me here in the head, came out the back of my neck, and then about a year out of the hospital, this hole developed in my head. So now, if you watch, I can move it. Does it still hurt? No. No, most of my scarrings have no feeling. Now I can feel the pressure you touching. That's kind of it. But I do have nerve pain on my right leg where they took some of my skin grafts. Um, on my head is my lat muscle. So the muscle out of my back, which you can see, I have the scar, it runs down. And I do have nerve pain from there. But other than that, not really. And guys, if I'm not getting your comment or I'm not answering it, just comment again. I am trying to hit as many questions as I can. Are they going to do a plate in my head? That's a good question. I get this one quite often. And so to do a plate in my head, first, the reason is they didn't do a plate because the hole was not there in the hospital. My skull was healthy, everything was good. And a year out of the hospital, we noticed that this developed. So to get it fixed is pretty big procedure. I would have to move to a different state for a year. They would have to cut and peel all this up. They said they would put balloons in my back to blow up my skin to stretch it out. Then they would cut that skin off, put it on my head, and measure it out, get it all fitted. And then they'd peel it back up and then take all this that's already here off. And then they would go from there. There's two things. One, it is risky because we don't know what the skin here, what tissue it has grown to underneath. And like I said, it is a hole in my skull, so my brain is right there. So they were pretty sketched out about that one. And then the next thing he told me, which threw me off, was because it is skin from your back and it has a lot of fat cells in your skin there, that if you eat a whole bunch, your head could gain weight. I like to eat. I like food. So I was like, I'm not gonna have my head fucking get huge. So right now I actually have a piece that goes in any one of my snapbacks, and that is what I do to protect my head every day. I walk outside and I don't have to worry. Ragnar, I love it. So I did do skin grafts, and they didn't do the whatever that's called. Uh, yeah, I'm not a strong reader, so how did I get hit? So I don't know how it happened or why it happened, but I was working on a machine. I was a miner, and the machine I was working on ran off of 4160. And yeah, I was electrocuted to the top of the head by 4160 volts. I did see a comment that said, "Is this squishy?" Yeah, it's a hole in the skull. I mean, if I jab my finger to it, it'd go into my brain. And I'd end up either dead or brain dead for the rest of my life. Uh, I was never a lineman, so I don't do any line work. And I don't do, I was a rock miner, and I'm not in the mining industry anymore as much as I miss it. And I would absolutely love to go back to mining. Hole in the head, even with a hard hat on, still not very safe. So, not going to do it. Good morning, Brandy. How's it going? Not, am I curious on what my brain feels like? Yeah. It's kind of like that deal where they say that you can bite through your finger just like you can bite through a carrot, but your brain tells you not to do that. Same thing with my finger to this. You want to squish on it, poke it. Your brain tells you it's a really bad idea, so don't do it. So I don't do that. Brandy, we're doing good. Pikachu going. I gotta say, that is the first time I've heard that one. I like that one. That's good.
You're a Pokemon?
It said Pikachu got you,
Oh.
which that's the first one I've heard for that. That was a good one. Usually it's Deadpool, you know, uh, Freddy Krueger, Vecna, all those.